they don't want to meet with a therapist. They don't want to talk about what's happened because as far as they're concerned, that I have turned on them, that they're the victims, and that they've done nothing wrong. So that's the big thing for narcissists, is that they cannot admit that they've done anything wrong. And the question you can ask them, a surefire question, you can just say, what's the one thing about yourself that you think needs some work, or you need to do some growth? What area do you need to do some growth in? Or could you stand to grow in? Could you stand to improve in? And a narcissist will just be very puzzled by the question. They will be either very confused by the question and really unable to answer it, or they'll get angry. They'll be angry by the question, angry by even the suggestion that something is wrong with them. Sociopaths, or, covert narcissists. And covert narcissists really are, in my mind, are sociopaths. I think they're synonymous. Because I've shared this, and it's all in the continuum. We've talked about that numerous times. But like my parents, for instance, they're overt narcissists, and they don't, they just are what they are, and they have a phony, public persona versus private persona, but it's very rudimentary. It's very, they're not plotting. You know what I mean? They're just being who they are in sort of a childish sort of way. They can't, they have very little self-control over over themselves. Not anything like the sociopath. The sociopath and the covert narcissist, they plan, they know what they're doing, and they're trying very much to get into your psyche, and they're playing to who you are. They're playing to what you want. They'll play to be who you want, what you're looking for and what you value. Whereas the overt narcissists, like my parents, they don't care about what you value. They don't care about what you want. They're not even, it's too much of a bother even for them to even try and get inside your head like that. They just are who they are. Take it or leave it. It's their world, and you're just living in it, and it's really all about them. And anything they do is right because they did it. Because they did it, that makes it right, because they don't make mistakes. Okay. This would be, you could get very misled if you were going to try and believe this, and then you went to ask this of a sociopath, because a sociopath could very easily come up with an answer. They will be very smart about coming with an answer. They'll come up with whatever answer that they think you're looking for, because they're gonna come up with an answer, and they'll be able to, come up with even real tears and, who knows what. For a sociopath, the thing that I have found is that the most telling thing to look for is not even the cruelty. It's not the cruelty. It is the pity. It is one of the first things that they'll do is try to get you to feel sorry for them. The narcissist also is not going to do that. The overt narcissist is not going to do that, because they have a very a childlike sort of kind of like, I'll do it myself kind of attitude, like little kids do, where they are going to show you their vulnerabilities. They don't want anybody thinking they need anything. They want everyone to think that they've got it all handled. They know what's best. They are best. They're the strongest, smartest, fastest, whatever. They don't need anybody, blah, blah, blah. The sociopath, on the other hand, he is all about wanting you to feel sorry for him, wanting you to feel like he's been a victim, wanting you to, he doesn't want you to feel like he's he's okay to be the one that was just the disadvantaged, the bullied, that kind of thing. Whereas that would be really off-putting to, that would be really off-putting to my parents. But my husband, he was all about that early on. Of course, now I didn't realize to what extent. I really didn't. I mean, this has all been a learning curve for me, but in the very beginning, for sure he was telling me all about his sad childhood and all of that stuff, versus my mother, who, I don't know anything. My parents had barely told me anything sad about that would do anything to explain who they are, how they've turned out, because life's always been perfect. If to hear them talk about their lives, there's been, nothing wrong, ever. But with the sociopath, it's the pity. It's the pity. But another thing you can add on to kind of add to this is that you'll notice sometimes that it doesn't reach his eyes. There's something about sociopath's eyes, and there's two different qualities of the eyes to look for. One's at the very beginning, and it's called the sociopathic stare, and where you'll notice them just staring at you in a way that no one has ever stared at you before. And you'll take this depending on who you are and what your needs are. If you were like I was, it was like he was just consuming me, and like he was drinking me up, and like he was adoring me. Like he just couldn't get enough of me. Drinking me in, and of course that's what he said when I'd be like, what are you looking at? And he'd be like, oh, I'm just looking at how beautiful you are. Or he'd say something like, this was the greatest one. He was like, I was just thinking about how beautiful you are and how that's the least interesting thing about you. That is such a good line, right? But he was great with that. He was the great silvery-tongued devil. But coming from my previously neglectful relationship and then my neglectful and rejecting parents, I was just a sucker for that. I just really was like, oh, this guy's so great. He just loves me so much. And plus, he was such a sad story and he needs me so much. I was just, he fished me in, pulled me in. So the sociopathic stare is the one thing about his eyes. And then later, when there's the pity thing, or he's doing this sort of self-deprecating thing, or maybe he's, or he's doing this, where he's actually projecting onto you the abuse that he is doing about his childhood, growing up with his mother, would be in bed all day and just unable to pull herself together, and how and he said it to me as though it was me that did it. And I never did it. You know, actually, he told that to a therapist. We were together in therapy, and he said it to a therapist. And I was like, I never do that. I never do that. And he was like all tear-filled eyes. And now this time, what I thought was, oh, he's having some kind of a flashback. He's having some kind of a breakdown. And of course, that even pulled me in even more, because I thought I was worried about him. I thought, oh my gosh, he's having a flashback to childhood and thinking it was me, and but in essence, he was just grasping at straws. He was just trying to do anything to make me look bad. And whether or not his mother even really did that, I suspect, knowing her, that she probably did. And maybe I validated that there was something wrong with that when he told it to me. Maybe I had the right reaction. So he figured, oh, this is a good thing to use. I'll say it again. But yeah, he had just, bold-faced lied, right? And it wasn't what I thought it was. I thought it was he's mixing things up, like not on purpose. But that wasn't what he was doing. He was like, he knew, like, he was just kind of caught in the lie. He was like, yeah, I know, but he just kind of kept plowing on, like, as they do. They never correct. They never, they don't even get embarrassed by their lies. They don't even blush or act like they've been caught or anything. It's the craziest thing. They just act like, oh, well, let's try the next lie, see if that one works better. But anyway, yes. So couple traits, easy ways to know who you're dealing with. And if you see these, hightail it out of there. Okay, thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.